Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we're live. We're currently live on YouTube. Let me just do that check real quick. Let me check what's going on YouTube. Oh, wow. Okay. So we're live on YouTube too. In case you have anyone who is actually not able to access LinkedIn, so you can
Okay.
as well reach out to them to connect on YouTube. So we're live on YouTube stream, and
Okay.
we're also live on Twitter. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. Probably good
Hey
night from
guys.
wherever you're joining us from. Yeah, so I'm just trying to check and be sure that we have everybody joining us from different platforms. So we have our YouTube down. Our YouTube is up and active. I'm actually watching myself right now. And same thing goes to our Twitter, that's X. We have that live feed active, so you can as well watch or stream from Twitter, and you can also stream from LinkedIn rather. And let's get this discussion down. So, thank you very much, everybody who's tuning in. And from wherever you're joining us from, really appreciate. And we're very sure that by the end of this conversation, by the end of this discussion today, we're going to get the best out of it and, continue to learn more and see how to put more into practice, not just learn. Let's not get our heads stuck up with too much learning. Talk about practicals, right? Yeah, how we
Yeah.
put it into practice makes a difference. Okay. Okay. Welcome everybody who's joining us, wherever you're joining us from. Please let us know where you're joining us from, either on LinkedIn, either on Twitter, or on YouTube Live. Wherever you're joining us from, just leave a shout out. And where any country you're joining us from too. I'm Matthew. I'm joining from Nigeria. I'm joining from Lagos, Nigeria, and our guest here is joining us from Kenya, who will talk more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome everybody, and good to have you on another episode of An Hour with Your Manager Live podcast. And I'm Ubong Matthew, your host for this very session. And as I always say, that I'm going to be here for as long as possible by the grace of God. I will continue to stay here to share information, make impacts, see how to talk about the future of work, plan for what we don't know might come to play in the nearest future, and maybe you might wake up one morning and AI is actually giving birth to humans. You never can tell. But on this chat, we'll get to, someday chat with one of those guests who will give us those insights and see how to plan ahead of time and not get scared at what is going to happen in the future, but rather let's stay very, very, let's stay aware of it and see how to, make those strategies and plans to fit into those goals. For the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at what's going on with employee management. We've been talking about what's going on in the organization. We've been talking about planning. We've been talking about recruitment. We've been talking about how to harness your career, right? Like our last guest that spoke with us last week. And it's been very, very inciting conversations all along. And if you were not able to, or if you've not been able to follow up on those discussions, please do well to look up at an Hour with the Manager event, and then you find most of the streams to get you down. Or you can as well follow up on our Spotify or Apple Music and even our YouTube channel, right? So for our YouTube live, we just started our feed today for the purpose of these very events discussion. So you can as well always get those info from our YouTube. So please let's see how to watch this, follow up on this, engage. You don't understand what was said there, reach out to me, ask the questions, reach out to the guests. I believe they are open and ready to always respond to most of those questions, because before they come on board here, it means they are ready to share their own information, their own wealth of experience to also get inspired. So today I have a very distinguished guest here with me, a very wonderful young man or gentleman who will share much information in terms of what are the strategies we need to be looking at for to go to the market, and quite a lot of stuff that will help us plan for the future and what organizations need to do, to either be able to retain their people and see how not to lose people, but rather retain people and keep them coming back for more. And I have today here Jackson Kimwe. Mr. Jackson, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good too. Good to have
Uh,
you.
Nice, nice. Pleasure being here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you too. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
yeah. Um, so how do you feel? How do you feel right now? How do you feel having this?
I'm feeling excited. I'm glad to be here and to share whatever knowledge I have with the audience, and also kind of impact and get to motivate somebody.
Hmm, I love that. And I forgot to mention, Jackson has very wonderful informational updates on his YouTube channel. You can as well search for Jackson Kimwe, and you'll get to have a discussion about hard work and some other stuff. But he's going to give us some insights from that video today. Just stay tuned, and let's continue to learn and share valuable information together. So, guys, on the topic today, looking at go-to-market strategy. First, if you're joining us alone, please do well to go back, send this link, either YouTube, X, or LinkedIn, post it on your WhatsApp status, your Telegram group, wherever those learning group you always go to, share it across. Let's have other people come join us in this very discussion, right? I don't want you to come alone. I can't see you right away, but I'm very sure that we have people who are watching this, we have people who are streaming this. And if you're here alone, please do well to go back, copy the link, go share it across. And when you do, let's know who you invited alongside with you. And we'll talk about the rest of that later. And trust me, so today, like I said, we're talking about go-to-market strategy, and we have a very wonderful guest who is going to do that for us, is Jackson. And before we get into the conversation of go-to-market strategy, which is GTM strategy, let's talk about our guest. Let's get to know our guest, and let's get to know how he's been able to harness his career for the past 7 years, which is very amazing and still counting, and which I'm very positive that the next 20 to 30 years will be very amazing for you. So, Mr. Jackson, please tell us about yourself. Tell us about you and what makes you very unique in your own way.
Okay, okay, cool. Thanks, Matthew, once again. And to the audience, I say hello to you. My name is Jackson, and I'm a global talent acquisition specialist. So, what that means is I'm a recruiter by profession, in layman's language. Been doing this for the last 7 years and still counting. It's been really fulfilling journey for me, a great experience to be somebody who's in the realm of HR and be able to connect job seekers to potential employers, being able to mentor young guys, give them direction in terms of how they can go about their careers. That is through mentorship, coaching, training, career development. So, what I have been able to, how I've been able to get to where I am today is I started off my career in customer service, and I think from a young age, when I was in college, I would say I'm grateful to my folks for being able to insist on build skill sets that you'll be able to, use in the future. A lot of people don't know this, maybe a few, but HR wasn't my preferred career to start with. But when I came into it, I suddenly love it because you're dealing with people, you're helping people solve problems, So that impact for me, that is what I find most satisfying. And I mean, I've been able to, or privileged to work with a couple of businesses throughout the 7 years, both in the agency and in the corporate world. And throughout where I've worked, I've been privileged also to have good colleagues, good mentors who've also helped me and carried me along the way to help me to get to where I am today. So it's not a one-man show. I can definitely tell you for that. It's been through a lot of learning. It's also been through a lot of hard work, perseverance as well. And I mean, the thrill for me is always charting the unknown territory. Yeah. So that is a bit about myself on a personal note. I'm a father, I'm a husband as well, and I have two kids. Yeah. So I'm really excited about today again to share with you.
Before we get to join you to chat that awesome course, please
Yeah.
let's know which of your skill you What skill were you handling before you went into HR? I know you missed that. Let's go back to that.
So I wanted to be a disc jockey. I wanted to be a DJ. Ever since I was in high school, to be honest, I
Okay.
love music. I've been around musicians. Um, so for me, that is what I really kind of wanted to do, to get into, because of how you can be able to express yourself, how you connect to the world. I think musicians is one career that a lot of people, look at it as a joke, but to be honest, it's a form of expression. That is how I look at it. It's a
Okay.
form. Music connects people as well. So I always wanted to be around that space, good energy, and all that, and good vibes. But I did that for a year or two, and back in the days, it wasn't paying so well. So I had that difficult conversation with my family, and I was like, "Yo, you have a degree, you can be able to do something also else with your career." And I mean, I decided, yeah, I mean, it's also a good way to go down the road, and the rest is history, as I say.
Hmm. Of
Yeah,
course. I've
yeah.
I've seen I'm seeing a little bit of those on chartered course, right? And it's thank you for sharing that with us. Well, I'm
Okay.
actually I'm a very big fan of hip hop and good music. Yeah, I actually love good
Uh-huh.
music. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, like you said, music actually connects people, and music has a way of relieving you of so many stress in some kind of way when you get to connect
Definitely.
with it. Okay, guys. Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson, for all you've been able to share with us as regarding your personal journey so far down to where you are today. And for the purpose of this discussion today, we'll be looking at five important things, which is crafting effective recruitment strategies for the future, role of personal branding in career advancement, understanding future trends, and building leadership skills for a competitive edge, and entrepreneurial strategies for human resource professionals. But first, before we get to talk about each of these points, Mr. Jackson, what is one thing our audience who are listening to this, that you personally you feel, oh, to everybody who's listening to this is what they should get at the end of this conversation, at the end of this discussion, they should be able to gather up and put themselves abreast as regarding to the topic of today.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Matthew. Once more. I would say be open to learn. That is the one thing that I can ask the audience, or they can take away from this. I mean, it's through learning that you get to find to get new knowledge, and you get to meet new people, get to get new opportunities, learn new skill sets. So learning for me is the one thing that I would give as a big takeaway. Be open to learning.
Mm, thank you very much. And we're going to see how learning can be very effective in today's future of work. Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about a little bit of what do you call it, unexpected activities, right? So what does growth means to you personally?
Okay, okay, yeah. Growth. For me, I look at it from what it means to me is being able to better yourself in simple terms.
Okay.
Moving from point A to point B. That is growth for me.
Mm, wow. And is there a time where you can simplify that for yourself, where you put it into practice to tell yourself, oh, this is how understanding this by just moving from point A to point B, or do you have to move to a very big point before it means you're growing?
No, 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 no. And I think that's the misconception of growth. Yeah, is you don't really need to make very huge steps for you to notice growth. Growth is comes from small micro or small bits of improvements. On it can be on a daily basis, can be on a weekly. So, for instance, if you would say, I want to be able to learn maybe, or I want to grow into a certain role, of course, definitely you have to chatter away in terms of a plan of how am I going to get there? How am I going to achieve this? What kind of support? What kind of materials? Things like those that are going to help you to go there. So it's a growth. What I've seen naturally is a painful process. It comes in bits, slow pieces. I mean, sometimes you get frustrated, you're trying to make the next jump. things are not working out, you have to go back to zero. So for me, I would say growth, if you really want to enjoy it, I mean, there's no shortcut to it, like saying I'm going to
You
accelerate
have
this
to
and
go
jump
through
a couple of hoops. No, no,
it.
no, 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 no. You
You
have
have
to
to
go
go through it.
through the small painful processes, and
Mm.
I think that's where really perseverance, things like those come into play. And that's what differentiates people who are willing to go the extra mile, or somebody who will be able to see themselves in a different realm, different perspective, and be able to say, you know what, I'm really proud of myself looking at where I've come from.
Thank you for reminding of us of that, and
Yeah,
understanding that you can't skip the process. I know most
you
times,
can.
we try to. I know tech is trying to help us skip some process, but no, you always have to go back to it. At the end of the day, you always have to follow it up. So thank you for
Definitely.
reminding us on that. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's understand the topic in depth about go-to-market strategy. What should we take to understand what go-to-market strategy is all about, please?
Okay. So I'll start with the definition of what is a go-to-market, strategy. Basically, if you've been in corporate world, this is a term that is used. It's not as people might call it a buzzword, but it's
Yeah,
basically the steps and the things that you put in place for you to be able to launch a product, a service, or the intentions of what you want to achieve. So these are the plannings that you do behind the scenes. Like for instance, if you are launching a service, for instance, today's talk or podcast, we had to have various sessions and figure out and plan and topics. What do we want to achieve with the audience? We started by defining who are our audience first and foremost. How
yeah.
are we going to connect with them? What content are we going to prepare that is going to interest them and captivate them? So for us, I think go to market strategy is how you plan yourself in terms of launching a product or a service.
Wow. So in terms of the organizations you've been able to work with, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you think they perceived those go-to-market strategies for them to be able to run up with? Let's say for SMEs, and
Mhm.
how was it like for them to understand through that process? Not everybody understands how to go through a process, right? It's that structure and process that differentiates a very big organization to a small organization, right? Because they understand that there's an importance of a structure where you have a line manager, you have a manager, you have
Yeah,
HR persons. You don't just have everybody doing everything, right? You have people
yeah.
doing different things and focusing on different things for the same goal, for the purpose of building and growing the organization, right? So how did you think how what's in your view of working with each of these brands? What's that thing you've seen about them accepting these strategies?
I mean, I would say number one is the vision, mission, and the will of what you want to achieve. That is where it starts from. When you put people together and you ask them, "Hey guys, I have this dream or I have this vision or ambition that I want to get into," and that's where it all starts. At the end of the day, people having a buy-in in what you're trying to do. At the end of the
Yeah,
day, so I can say I've been lucky enough to work in lots of startups, throughout my career. And I remember each in every startups that I've been into, we came in and we didn't have things figured out. So we needed to start defining things first and foremost, like what is our product? As I mentioned, who are our audiences? How do we want to go this? What makes us unique from the other people who are offering the same product in the market, so that we can come up with a value proposition for our audiences, so that we can be able to offer that service and make us ourselves stand out. So it's always about like coming in and starting to put the foundations together. So the CEO or the MD will be in charge with the management team in charge of strategy for different marketing, sales. We'll have the finance guys who will be doing forecastings for us, like in terms of revenue, in terms of numbers. Marketing will do initiatives and campaigns in terms of how do we launch this, how do we go about this. So it's a lot of how I would describe it is a lot of parts coming together. One of my CEOs who used to say, we are a flying plane that we're trying to build as we go by. because the world is moving so fast, and nowadays in this world you have to kind of move very fast. So when it comes to building strategies, again, that's the other important thing that I want to kind of talk about, is the speed at which you move at. So it's about bringing people together, and again, the aspect of time, looking at it, how do we get fast into the market, or how do we go against our competitors very fast so that we can take up the market share? So again, fitting into the go to market strategy. So that's one thing that I've been able to pick up with the organizations and startups that I've worked up with as well.
That sounds like a lot of challenges you've been able to face. How did you feel starting, maybe trying to understand each of these concepts to implement in the startups you worked with, most especially?
Okay. So my bit would come from basically hiring people. That is what I bring to the table, the value, you
Yeah,
know. So when I'm asked by when I'm working in an organization and I'm asked, can you give us our go-to-market strategy for talent? Number one is we have to start by looking and understanding the business, you know, understanding your customers. And
yeah.
then number two is now defining a persona for the kind of people that you want to bring in, the kind of mindset you want to attract in, the culture that you're building around as well. So there's so many moving bits and pieces to it. But for when it comes to talent acquisition, basically is you have to understand your job market. Number one, you have to understand, who am I trying to bring across in here? What are we trying to achieve as well? Do they have the same thinking? Are they having the same ambitions as the organization? And then ideally trying to marry them together, you know. So it's obviously very stressful. It's been I can say it's been difficult, but we always, as I said, I always want to challenge myself and solve problems, you know. So at the end of the day, that is what makes work exciting for me, I would say. Being able to come in and try and figure out, how am I able to give a solution to this problem, you know, that this maybe is this company is facing. So yeah, I would say it's really a lot of hard work. It's really tedious, but I think when you put your heads together and you know, you work as a team, you're able to figure it out as well.
Wow. And I'm hoping all of us here on this very show today will be able to figure out in one way or the other, because it's one thing to know what you want to do or what you want to achieve, and it's another thing to feel satisfaction when you see those things move, like what Jackson have shared here with us, talking about, coordinating teams on its own is a crazy thing. Looking for the right set of people to fit into the organization and to be able to drive the goal of the organization is another thing for you to achieve success. But in all, how was this challenge, or what were the challenges you faced? Talking about you as a family person, right? You're a father of two kids, and that's amazing. Last time I had a mother of, I think, 3 or 4 kids here, and
Yeah.
trying to understand her perspective with how she carries on activities both as a HR person and with work
Hmm.
as a mother too. It's crazy, man. It's amazing. It's amazing, I would say. So what about you? How do you get to do that? Because I know kids always want to come back to see their dad. They always want to see daddy. Hey daddy, are you back, and stuff like that. How does it reflect
Hmm.
in your job? How does it reflect in your career?
I mean, being a father or a dad is the most hardest job ever, to be honest. I always tell guys, there's no manual to it. You just have to, you know, take it one day at a time as it comes. But having a supportive partner, as I mentioned, I'm married, so having a supportive partner helps a lot. Helps you balance, you know, work and family time as well. So you also have to be intentional about how you spend time with your family, with your kids as well. So I would say it's striking a balance. There's never really a 50-50. It's just um our work-life balance depends. There are days that your work needs you more, so you'll have to give more. There are days that also your family will want more from you as well. You have to figure out, how do I strike a balance between them, you know, and still be able to uh keep everybody happy. You know, the kids want to see you at the end of the day, spend time with you. You know, with nowadays remote working, when especially at home, they'll come in there, hey, I want to see this, I want to do this. So again, is balancing, as I said, it's just taking it one day at a time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I can imagine, the amazing things you do personally, just to keep everybody in check.
I try. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about personal branding, right?
Yeah.
Let's understand personal branding. So there's a lot going on generally. We have businesses these days trying to
Yep.
shift to, seeing the importance of personal branding in pushing a brand, right? Personal
Hmm.
branding in pushing a brand itself. Like we have the likes of Gary V and the likes of Elon Musk, right? Who've
Hmm.
actually built a successful business out of their personal brand, personally
Hmm.
and globally, right? So,
Yeah.
what's your view in terms of personal branding and to advance career in today's world? What I seeing is that those problems or challenges that most people are facing, most especially if I would say the Gen Zs and,
Mhm.
well, with the millennials, what's really going on in that space?
Yeah. That's a good area, I think, to start the conversation of even the future of work is number one. I tell job seekers and candidates, if you don't have an image or a brand about what you represent, who you are, what makes you unique, you definitely are losing out. I think when it comes to personal branding, it's very important for any individual who's in the corporate or whether even in the entrepreneurial world. You need to maintain a brand because people subscribe or people respond to things that they're able to see, things they're able to hear, tangible things, experience as well. So if you're able to build your brand, and personal branding plays a very critical role when it comes to career advancement. For instance, it establishes credibility. For instance, when I am hiring, let's say, for instance, any person for any position, number one, I try and look at your historical experiences and exposure. That in itself, if it there's no kind of how would I say it? If you're not able to show credibility, like you've done this, you've achieved this before, what is it gonna make me give you a chance to be able to come and work here as well? So that's where personal branding comes in as well, because you're able to blab about what you've been able to do, and you're able to also showcase to the people or the world, like, this is my skill set, this is my potential as well, and this is where I can go into. So when we talk about personal branding, it's all about differentiating yourself from the others, to be honest, because each and everybody of us, we can say we can speak English, but depend on what level. We can say you know how to use Excel, but depending if you give it an Excel now and told to use advanced Excel, depending. So personal branding really helps you and differentiates you a lot from your competitors, from the other people, and it's what makes you unique as well. So I would say also in terms of building relationships, personal branding is very important. In today's corporate world, relationships are really critical. If you're not able to build relationships, then unfortunately, I always tell people you'll have a limitation to what you can be able to do.
Why do you say that?
Because I mean, I always believe relationships are important in today's world. Somebody asked me, "What is the one thing you'd want to inherit?" And let me pose a question. If I ask the audience, "What is the one thing that you'd like to inherit?" Let's say from your parents today, what would you say, Matthew? It is.
Ah, I didn't expect that. But if it's one thing to inherit from my parents, I would inherit the ability to be able to connect with people freely.
Good. So, okay. So
Yeah,
for me, I always say if there was one thing I was given a magic wand, is a contact book that I would want, because that's a gateway, that's connection. So, good businesses where you'll find or businesses that are built from family. They started off from somebody connecting with other people, and they made sure they opened doors for the person who's coming next. So that is what I mean by a contact list or a contact
of
book.
course.
That's the bridge. So money always comes and goes, but relationships are there to stay.
Hmm. You know, the points you're sharing right now really aligns with one of our conversations we had here with Artie Mbete, South
Okay.
African, who shared quite some in-depth information in terms of talent and working in HR and people strategy, right? And I'm happy that we can have to reflect this again, talking about relationship, because today's business progress or success is all about relationships, it's all about connection, it's all about collaboration, because we don't have probably I might be using an avatar, but if I don't know how to chat with you as a human, as a proper human, not AI might get faulty sometimes or most times, because it's just a system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
for the ability for me to be able to connect with you and speak with you directly and be able to, build that meaningful connection where we get to know ourselves and go from just being a stranger to actually collaborating and doing stuff, probably closing deals and exchanging contacts, and it makes the connection grows bigger and bigger. You never can tell. Might be sharing deals with multi-billion-dollar companies in the future. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I would say personal development or personal branding is very important, and we all should be able to keep ourselves up to date in regarding to that. Speaking about Excel sheet, right? Let's look at Microsoft with what Microsoft is doing. Just take a little bit back to looking at that's the GTM, that's go to market strategy, right?
Yeah.
So with all Microsoft, I know Microsoft is trying to integrate a lot of AI concepts, and with their new tool, that's the Micro 365 Copilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the emergence of all of these companies like Netflix also trying to, push up with their content, Zoom improving their future process with their features with the future of remote work and hybrid.
Yeah.
What is that familiar thing we all should be really aware of to make collaborations better with all of these tools, like all of that which you're saying?
That's an interesting question. So, I would say embrace AI. To be honest, there's no need for. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with people looking at how AI or technology is kind of replacing humans in the workplace. So what I would say is there are those industries or sectors that definitely AI is more efficient compared to human. But in all sense, I still believe that there are more opportunities for the human being or the person to be able to take up. For instance, when we an example I like to use with my audience when I'm speaking to is sales. AI can never replace a salesperson. So if you are looking at an opportunity or looking at a skill for the future, why don't you get into a sales role? Or a sales role comes in many different ways. Doesn't mean that you have to do hardcore sales. There are lots of and I think every business or every company is opened. The main goal is to make business, and they need salespeople. So all I ask people is develop a sales skill in whatever area you are. You could be in finance, still develop that skill of a sales. So the goal is look at skills that will still require humans to be able to get things done. Not that they're slowing them down, but it's because you can never replace them fully.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm making
But
sense.
of course you are. But AI itself is probably going to be maybe, at least I still feel there's some skills where AI still takes its place, even when we try to replace it, even when we try to do look out for some of those skills for human, right?
Yep. I agree with you. I mean, it's because of efficiency, cost, and all those things. But at the end of the day, when you look at 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 at, at w- what AI brings, I would say it's leaning more towards empowering and building on what the human has already built on already at the end
Okay.
of the day. Because I mean, it's AI was it's human thought. It's somebody who's been able to program it and put it together. And at the end of the day, now the analytics and all the crazy things that I'm not a geek in tech, but from my little understanding, I do believe AI was created by a human. So
Of course. I will try
yeah,
to stay strong to it and not let it
exactly.
fight us down. Of
So
course.
AI is here to empower people. I believe that, and I think
Okay.
we just need to figure out how to embrace it and be able to adapt and be flexible.
So, but what are the best way for that you think we can use to jump into this empowerment scheme? Let me use it that way.
Um, I mean, one way is just leveraging on what it can do. For instance, where it can be able to save you time and resources, deploy it there, and then focus and put your efforts where it cannot come into. That's how you're able to ensure like there is still continuity. I look at it from that perspective because um, if we say AI, I mean, like I know AI can replace a lot of things human do, but I do believe like there's still that need for a human personal touch. In most of, especially services, products, I'm not able to speak about them, but when it comes to services, I think the human personal touch is still as important as it has been before.
So, is it something we should be scared of, or is something we
Yes,
should stay confident with?
we should stay confident with, to be honest.
Ah, okay. So please, everybody, please stay confident and trusting that we are going to scale through the process and the times of artificial intelligence with good and strong information. Okay, so let's talk about building leadership skills, right? What are some
Mhm.
of the what are some of the what do you call it? What's some of the leadership skills we're looking at moving forward in the future? What's some of those things that we know that okay in the nearest future will be a hot take for leaders that you've been able to see so far?
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a good question. And I think when it comes to leadership, it's normally a very huge conversation. But some of the things, or let me speak or answer that question from a competency perspective. Um, when I go out and say I'm looking for a leader, what are the things that I look for? That's how I can be able to answer that question best. So,
Okay.
number one, we'd be looking a leader as we can define it, or leadership is the art and science of influencing and dynamically setting and resetting direction. So that is the work of a leader. You're able to come in, lead people, show people this way. If it's not working, you're able to come up with another solution and steer them in another way. So when we talk about people empowerment, and that drives to my first point. So we have people empowerment. That is one of the competencies that I look out for is in people. Have you been able to empower people along the way as you also grow? You'd find a characteristic in leaders that is really stable is people empowerment. They are willing to mentor people, they're willing to train people so that if tomorrow, for whatever reason, that person is not there, somebody can also step up and take up that role and continuity still and the work still continues. Okay. Then the other thing I would talk about in terms of competencies would be building connections with employees or people. Again, I'm just from talking about building relationships. So when it comes to leadership, again, we can see it's still there, that building relationship with people. And then the other thing is managing change. People are always scared about when change is coming. For instance, you're talking about AI and how it's taking over, jobs and skill set. So that change, a good leader should be able to know how to manage that change. Be able to bring people to a calm during even the storm. At the end of the day, I mean, I've seen some of the great leaders that I've seen are people who go through very thunderstorms, or I would say difficult times, but at the end of the day, they remain calm. They're able to find some calm somewhere, and they're able to steer the team again and bring them into the right direction. So people who are able to do that, I mean, it's very amazing. And then the other thing I'll talk about is
But
knowledge
sorry,
transfer.
before you mention your last point, is there any leader personally you would like to vie for that you think is an outstanding leader and it's someone you would love to look out or you look up to?
Oh, I mean, there's so many.
Okay,
There's
let's
so
mention
many.
one, just one outstanding.
Okay, mine comes from a sports angle, and it's because how he's been able to do everything. And I would say LeBron James has been my idol, to be
Mm.
honest. It's his work ethic, his entrepreneurial mind, what he's been able to achieve. I mean, all this is through discipline, and I mean, it's outstanding, to be honest. I would talk about others, maybe in the corporate world, would be former Nissan MD, who the one who escaped to Pakistan in a suitcase. I don't know if you've heard the story, but I liked his approach and how he was able to revolutionize the motor industry, being able to, bring and create a conglomerate from one car maker to another. He's called Goen, if you know his name. Yeah, you can check him
Okay.
up. I can type it, but he's somebody who I've always liked his approach to management and how he's been able to get things done also.
How did that impact your life? How did that impact your career?
Oh. So when we talk about career development, when I got into HR and knew that this is what I want to do, I looked at what made them successful and I tried to borrow from that blueprint, to be honest. So there, I would say they're kind of a motivation for me. When I look at how they've been able to, get things or achieve success in their specific regions or areas, and what can I borrow from them that would enable me get closer or align to the goals where I'm heading into. So I kind of took a blueprint. I would say there's really nothing new under the sun nowadays. It's just being able to implement a strategy better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like my previous guest last week talked about the role of mentors in career development in people's life, in individuals' life, and I kind of agreed with her point. So, what will you say? Will you say rather that what do you call it? That role model also play important point in an individual's life.
Yes, very true. That is 100%. I mean, everybody that I have interacted or everybody that I know who's been able to be successful in their career, they've had mentors who've been able to show them the way, teach them as well, share knowledge with them, open doors for them in terms of introductions or just, showing them where to go. So it's really important to have a mentor.
Mm. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And to everyone who is tuning into this very wonderful discussion today, thank you very much. And this conversation is not just for myself or for our guest. If you have any question, you have any thoughts, you have anything you might want to contribute to keep this conversation going that you're very curious about, please feel free to share them in the comment box, or you can as well send them into my DM. And I'm already opening my DM, and I'm going to respond to every one of them as they come. I'll share them here with my guest, and he'll be able to do justice to each of those questions and as well leave us satisfied. Because the aim here is for us to be able to learn comfortably, educate ourselves comfortably, and stay up to date with most of this information. And mind you, don't be scared. AI is not going to take our jobs. We are here to talk about the future of work, and we would continue to see how to brainstorm together and plan for a better future that we humans can continue to stay superior over the machines, not the machines staying superior over us. So thank you very much to everybody, and don't forget to still share this link across. Like I said, you can watch us here on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter. So please do well to click that link, share that link across. Let's have people join this very discussion today because it's not for Matthew alone. Neither is it for our guests who's sharing the information. It's for everybody. It's for the world at large. So let's going to share this together. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned to you guys that our guest has also done a couple of stuff with the e-commerce business. Yeah, which is going to
Yeah.
share more information. But let's talk about Amazon, right? Amazon is really doing a whole lot of stuff with with the e-commerce space. Like we would say here in Nigeria, they are really peppering the e-commerce industry, right, with all of their process structures, right, market strategies, and all of that. What are some? Can you share some of the strategies maybe you've seen them implement that you think is something anybody or in any organization or any e-commerce brand should also look at? Maybe thinking through for their own business growth.
Okay. I mean, when it comes to e-commerce, and particularly I'll speak into the African landscape, where I've
Okay.
been able to, work for one of the largest e-commerce platforms that were running in 6 countries. And how that product was built was just amazing. I loved it. It was something that was offering solution to the last mile delivery, and we were solving problems for the person who's at the grassroots level.
Okay.
How are they able to access goods, superior goods, similar to other people, also like the bigger chain stores or supermarkets or distributors, and still at a favorable price, and allow them also to operate. So I think e-commerce as well has driven a lot how business is being done in the African landscape. There's still huge potential, I mean, to it. The thing is being able to just come up with a product and know your target audience. One thing I learned from being in that business is stay true to your North Star. And what I mean by that is, if you came in and your purpose was to connect those marginalized communities, and those people at the grassroots level, to be able to give them that opportunity, and to make money and also impact their lives, stick to that. If you diverged it and started adding on to more other things, it dilutes what you are doing. So in e-commerce, I've seen that, and I mean, it's business. You want to be able to maximize on the profit, move a lot of products, get into different spaces, but it can also be tricky. If I don't know if you've seen recently, like in Kenya, Copia, one of a big brand that was in the e-commerce space, has gone through a lot of, especially changes, and right now I hear them in the verge of, downsizing, their operations, and primarily because we had so many players who came into that place at one time, and everybody, instead of focusing on their own niche, they wanted to start diversifying. And I think that diluted, from my own analysis, it diluted what they were trying to get, and that way you end up losing the customers, at the end of the day. So when it comes to things like Amazon, that's a big conglomerate. They can be more of helping or a bridge between products that are coming from the developed countries into the developing countries.
In talking about e-commerce, for me personally, I would continue to champion and say the future is remote, the future is digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at least I've been able to collaborate with a couple of brands, and that's in terms of e-commerce. We've sold a couple of
Mm-hmm.
stuff rather, and you realize that one of the things that keeps me very happy whenever I come on board on this podcast is because you realize that people are beginning to drift from going out to the public to move very
Mm-hmm.
frequent to staying indoor to do most of the stuff, staying indoor to order for the stuff, staying indoor to buy anything, staying indoor to. So I tell most of my friends that if you have a store, an online store, just stay true to it, be in the right environment, in the right community,
Mm-hmm.
and trust me, as far as you're always selling, you have people who will buy that thing from you. Because I don't ever mean to say we're becoming tired or we're becoming lazy, but it's what is going on in the world, and e-commerce, like you said, is the future. And hopefully, I'm sure we'll try to see how to also take some part of the market share.
Yeah.
Because I know it's very big and it's going bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. But do you think e-commerce will ever have a stop time, maybe compared to the conventional way of selling? We have the
Uh,
brick and mortar where you just have people do their stuff and keep going.
to be honest, I don't think so. Unless we unless something really changed in the tech world. But to be honest, I don't think so. It's still gonna
Maybe.
be there. Um, I mean, nowadays, let me use and allow me to use an example of my home country. A lot of people do secondhand clothing sales, and once they buy them from, we call them mitumba market here. So it's
Mm,
like they come from abroad, then they come here, so we call them mitumba. And trust you me, that is a space that I've seen very young guys get into. They try and source for capital as little as 30 to 50,000 Kenya shillings, and you have your first bill. All you need is to have a good phone, you need to have internet, and voila. I've been able to see them build businesses through, as you're saying, e-commerce online. So unless something really disrupts the tech world that we are not able to kind of transact, but I don't see that happening. It's still gonna be there. That technology or that AI is transferring when you look at the hospitality industry. I created that a few years ago, and a friend of mine who was traveling told me, like, in hotels, some hotels in Europe, especially during COVID, people were self-checking in themselves. There were no receptionists.
wow.
So that goes to show you the extent at which the application is. You just need to think differently about it.
Mm. And I'm hoping that our audience will also be able to think differently. Good to have you, Erica. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Alexander Gichangi, thank you very much for tuning in. And we're happy to have every one of you on this very discussion. Okay, Mr. Jackson, let's talk about your video on YouTube, right? Which is
Yeah.
very, very unique. You talked about one very important point, which I think we have a lot of people who are kind of scared of that part. You've mentioned that
Mhm.
before, but I want us to just let's look at it in depth again. Let's talk about hard work, right? What is your
Yeah.
approach to hard work, and how is hard work important for personal growth or organizational growth?
So hard work is really important, to be honest. I normally say you work smartly, but at the end of the day, I always say hard work. It's all about discipline. Okay, so for me, the key to being able to achieve anything in life, I always tell people, is discipline. If you're able to be disciplined in your craft, in what you do, doing research, getting better at it, investing time in it to learn new trends, connecting with people. If you keep pushing and going, and you have that discipline of, I know I need to get to point X. I'm starting from this point. What do I need to put in place to be able to get to that point? And for us, it's easy to put it in mouth and say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. But at the end of the day, I found it like you have to be really disciplined. And when I talk about disciplined, is I'm talking about doing the things that you don't want to do. That is discipline. So
Yeah.
I've learned, like, when you're
This
able
one you're
to.
trying to cruise your mind from not doing it. You want to run away
Exactly,
from
exactly,
it.
exactly. That's where the discipline comes in. So if you really focused and really ambitious into getting anything in life, I always tell people it's easy if you're disciplined. That's the number one thing. Then the other thing would be, now give it your best every day when you wake up. I mean, we have different days, different challenges, and don't let any day let you weigh you down. For instance, I get to interact with people who have a bad moment, and that bad moment spoils the whole day. For me, I don't believe it should be like that. You should be able to have a bad moment. Like, if it's an hour, let it be an hour. Have that bad moment, then switch yourself up and say,
Get
you know
back.
what? Let me get back on this and figure it out. So I think if you have that kind of mindset, which we now call the growth mindset, which I'm coming to, because I think one of the key things for me that has enabled me to kind of also go through things is having a growth mindset towards a lot of the stuff that I go through. Whatever challenges you're faced into, try and look at challenges as an opportunity for you to get better. Again, I try to avoid, like, oh man, how am I gonna get this? So I just figure it out. I start. Like, an example is, If I'm going through I'm having a bad maybe day at work, and my boss is expecting something from me, I would take a step of informing them like, hey, mayday, mayday. That's my code word to them. And I'm like, they know, okay, things are bad today. So that way I'm able to communicate to them, and then I'll tell them, give me like, just, I'm going through this, I'm trying to figure this thing out. It's popped on my desk right now, it's urgent, I need to prioritize a couple of things. So you need also to know how to communicate. And hard work, again, at the end of the day, not digressing, is again doing those things that you hate doing, and again being able to face those adversities with a very positive mindset. So that is what I would speak when it comes to hard work in
So
a
do you
nutshell.
think do you think that is declining, like the future we see? Do you think that is declining?
Uh, to be honest, I would say it's on a 50-50. Um, there we have like an insight I can share with the audience is currently in the job market. I'm finding millennials, the baby boomers, are more marketable as compared to the Gen Zs, and it's because of that. They're not the Gen Zs maybe want to have a softer landing at work, whereby there's not lots of pressure, there's not lots of, but businesses have those. That is why they are there. That's why they are built. Somebody is trying to solve a problem, so you'll get frustrations and all that. So I think yes, it's declining, and I think I'll encourage the Gen Zs to kind of build resilience, and some of these things as they come into the job market, because for them, it's if you don't have those, you're gonna be losing.
Wow. So do you think this is going to be a problem moving forward for organizations? Because like the millennials are gradually fading away, and the Gen
Yeah,
Zs are becoming the frontiers of the business market.
yeah. So I think, I mean, a lot of the companies and organizations are also trying to understand how the Gen Zs work as well, how they like things done. And I'm not talking down on them in any way, but
Of course.
they're also doing amazing stuff. I mean, it's just about understanding them and knowing how do they like things done. To be honest, it's about culture, building a culture around that also incorporates their needs, understands them, and striking a balance. Because, yeah, for instance, I mean, for us as millennials, and maybe comparing to the Gen Zs, um, coming to work and maybe your boss today is in a very bad mood and rubs you off. I've seen videos, people who are quitting instantly, and I'm like, yo,
You know what I went through?
so they need to have things like emotional intelligence. Those are the things that we speak about, soft skills. I think the technical expertise, they're very creative, but I think for them is building the soft skills so that they can be able to know how to navigate and be flexible. That I think will help them a lot. And I think I have a for my kids, like I have my daughter who's 8 years old. I teach her the basics. Let me say, I try and teach her the basics of working smart, being responsible, and pushing very hard, regardless of whatever challenges. And I mean, it's the goal is to be able to instill such characteristics or competencies in her, one step at a time. Of course, I do it gradually. I don't start like, hey, you can't do this. They'll make mistakes, but you teach them as they make those mistakes as well.
So, in your own view, do you think, or what would you say to organizations that have stayed that have probably been in business for the past 50 years? Are they going to be
Mhm.
reviewing their corporate culture for the sake of being able to accommodate Gen Zs, or is it just going to be a standard process? Or
They
do you think
have to.
other business will also be doing that?
They will have to. They will have to. There is no way around it. You can't get stuck in the old ways. I mean, the world, one thing is change is inevitable. At the end of the day, you might hang on to something and say, yo, we want to do this and hold on to this. But remember them, we as millennials are getting older, and the Gen Zs are the ones coming. So one or the other, it's inevitable. That's what I'm saying. So they're really going to have to figure out their culture. And I mean, we've all had the strategy that's saying culture, it's strategy for breakfast. So if you might have the right people, you might have the right strategy, but if you don't have the culture, then people are not going to be able to buy in to what you're doing. So it's inevitable.
Thank you. And we are going to probably end this podcast, this discussion or podcast, with two questions.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and one of that is will be okay. Before I ask my question, let me take one. Let me take a question from the audience here. So,
Okay.
Alexander is asking, how does one reach out to the right mentors, and how can one show value? For instance, if both of you were to pick mentees, what would you like? What would you look out for? So the question is, how does one reach out to the right mentors? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, if it's in terms of career wise, mentors come in two aspects. There are career mentors, and then there are those that are general life mentors who can really be like on both ends. So you'll have to look at somebody who, when you look at them, you would really want to say, if I was in their position, I would really be happy. That is where I tell people you need to start with when you're looking. Don't pick a mentor who you're not really connected or don't have things in common. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100%, but I try and look at where am I trying to go? Can this person help me get there? So it's more about evaluating yourself and your needs and aligning to where you're going into and just picking up the person who you like. Okay, they really might not be your friend. You can actually go and ask for introduction and say, nowadays we have LinkedIn. You can, and I see a lot of people who come to me. Let me use myself as an example. And hey, Jack, I want to learn more about recruitment. How can you help? I want to get into recruiting. So we start from there. Feel free to reach out. I mean, the world nowadays is much easier with the platforms that we have around, that you can be able to connect to people. So I would say is try and identify somebody who is either doing something that you're looking to get into, aligns with your career, your goals and ambitions, and they can walk you through that. It could be somebody who you like their values, like how they run their things. They could also be a mentor and teach you the right way. So those are the tips I would give in terms when it comes to picking a mentor.
Thank you for that. And I just want to add that Alexander, please, for you to learn more about career development and picking the right mentor or not, or knowing the right mentor to pick, please, we have our stream available from a previous event last week, our previous podcast last week on career development with Abike Wese. So you can as well stream on it. Or after this discussion, I'll share with you in the comments, and you can as well follow up on that. But know fully well that, like Jackson has said, you have to pick who you connect with, and you should know what you want to do, because you don't just meet a mentor and tell the mentor, oh, I want to start a career in this, in XYZ, without having a goal, without having a plan, or without even knowing what you want to do, right? How would I help you if
Yeah,
I don't know what you want to do, right? So that'll
yeah,
be that'll be a lot of jobs. So first you need to know what you want to achieve first, and then
exactly.
you know the right mentor. Somehow life will always tilt you till you finally get to the right person. You might probably have the first person not right, second person not right, but definitely as you keep pushing, like we are here, that's why we have this live podcast, and we can also guide you. You can as well reach out and we can have a talk
Yeah,
and see how to work that process. We have our guests here who can also be of help to, walk you through that process, because it's very important to have a mentor, whether digitally or without the mentor you see physically. Both ways still works. It depends on what you want to achieve or what you want in life, and that will make a safe landing for you. Okay, so thank you for that question, Alexander, and welcome, Odeni G. Yes, we'll have the recording available for you to stream, for you to watch it, or for you to, listen to it at your own free time. Um, so let's look at the software company, right? What
mhm.
what are those GTM or go to market strategy a software company should be able to integrate for growth? Like, what do you think a software company who is just starting, a startup who is just starting today and want to get the right recruitment, get the right people, get everything right? What's that strategy they should be able to follow up that I think you can advise on for that?
Okay, okay. So I think, yeah, what I would say is Number one is understanding your market, job market, where you're playing at. And once you understand that, you are able now to know what kind of people we do require. Then you can now start, coming up with personas for those. For me nowadays, for a software company, what comes to mind is it's gonna be social, digital technology, and all that. So I would ask them to embrace using social recruiting more because most softwares or dev software people are normally digitally connected most of the time, and then software as well, the companies or the market space in itself as well, everybody's connected online. So I would say leverage on understanding your job market. Then number two would be um, uh, develop also your unique employee value proposition, like what would you be offering your people that you're looking to hire different as opposed to your competitors, again, because avoid the trap of one applies for all. That's a common mistake I've seen, like, yo, these guys are doing this, you can do this. That's what I mean. So try and come up with something different that will make you a little bit unique to the people you're trying to get on board here, and also the people that you're trying to serve as well.
Thank you for that. And yeah, please, for all startups and entrepreneurs or software companies pushing up for this, let's see how to, put up for the right strategy. And in line with just what we concluded in terms of mentor, Dr. Collins just said here that mentors are not easy to find. You need to get someone with 360 engagements, and secondly, you need to get someone sincere to you, and that's true. And I agree to that.
Yeah.
That you need to get someone who's sincere and who's not just there to feed you with more information and not give you the right direction. Because
Yeah.
that's why they are called mentors. And that's why we have someone like Jackson and every of our guests who are on this board. They can as well give you the right information and strategy to get on board with that. So please feel free to communicate. I would have said let's keep going and keep chatting and keep having more conversations on this very discussion as regarding to the different strategies, talking about personal branding. And when we started, our guest here talked about with the first takeout for us to look at is being able to always learn, keep your mind open to learning. And if you've been able to follow up on this discussion and you've kept your mind open to always learning, I believe that you'll be able to get the best information from what we've been able to share today, right? Talking about crafting effective recruitment, the different strategies. We've talked about personal branding. We've talked about the future trends. We've mentioned some trends, and we've also even talked about some leadership skills that can keep you going. And we've also, I guess I've also talked about soft skills, which is very important. Looking at emotional intelligence, the future of work, right? Which is very, very important. Being able to communicate effectively, which is very important, and having the right skills so that you too can also attract the right people you want, to connect with the right
Yes.
people, and also collaborate with the right people. And in all, we have come to the end of this very discussion today, which I would say, if we had the time, we'll continue going and going further. But our guest here is a dad, he's a father who needs to go back to his family and probably get to bid his kids good night and stuff like that. So, but to every one of us who've been able to stay with us, we really appreciate, and I with the manager appreciate. I, Ubong Matthew, I very much appreciate. But before we close up on that, Jackson, what's one thing, a key takeaway that you think our audience rather, should be able to leave this discussion today with, please?
Okay. So my parting shot to the audience would be every new challenge, every diversity and opportunity will serve to grow you and your career.
Thank you for that. And that flows in line with his discussion in terms of hard work and staying resilient. Thank you for sharing that key takeaway, and thank you to everyone who's been able to stay true with us. And don't forget, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's our own way to continue to grow this channel and going to grow this digital education. Subscribe to
Yeah.
all, follow us on our LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and even on Instagram. Let's continue to share more quality information. And trust me, we are here to we're going to stay here for as long as we don't know, but hopefully we'll continue to share information. We'll continue to invite more important guests, more experts and professionals to going to come on board here. Let's see how to craft the future of work together. Let's see how to keep ourselves resilient for the future of work and not run away from it. Let's see how to wear the armor of work and stay true to all of that which we're doing. Trust me, the journey is not easy alone. If you need someone to talk to, you need someone to reach out to, you can feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to our guest any point in time. Let's see how to get you on board in that aspect of your career which you want to grow. So thank you very much, everybody. And it's good to be here. And we'll see you guys next week, Thursday, with another guest who will talk in depth. We'll go in depth in that conversation. Please do all to stay tuned with us, and let's go into share and learn valuable information together. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for your time.
Thank you too, and thanks for allowing me to share.
I appreciate it. Good night.
Okay. Night.